Are you working extremely hard to grow your ministry or your faith based business, but it seems like all of your hard work is not paying off? I mean, you are planting seeds, you're making calls, you're doing the reach outs, you're doing the Facebook lives, you're doing everything that people are telling you. And yet still you're frustrated and you're not generating the type of revenue needed to move your mission forward. If that's you, we're having a conversation about this today. And I want to welcome you to a weekly live show where we talk about all things faith, ministry, and purpose driven business. I am your host and your coach, Reverend Jocelyn, and I grew my ministry from a simple blog to a national Christian trauma healing ministry. And now I help women just like you to answer the call that God put on your heart. And so if you're a first timer, welcome, sis. We are so glad that you are here. And I'm going to invite you to do a couple things for me. First, slam that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a first timer, I want to give you a gift. Go ahead and download my Ministry Launch Starter Kit at sisterstartyourministry.com. There, you'll learn not only how to start a ministry that you might be familiar with in the church, but this also helps you to start your faith-based business, showing you how to organize your ministry, how to market your business, how to really package things so you can reach those people who are your assignment. So you get that free at sisterstartyourministry.com. Now, for those who are my regulars who know how we do things, I want to invite you to put your name in the chat and let me know what city you're representing. And so I can give you a shout out. I'm going to be commenting back and forth in the comments today, and I'm right here with you. And if you're a first timer, we want you to recognize yourself as a first timer so we can welcome you. And if you're watching a replay, I want you to comment as well, because I do personally respond to these comments. Now, today, we are talking about the number one reason that your ministry or your kingdom business is not growing. And most likely is not because you're not trying, because in most cases you are. Maybe you could try a little bit harder, but nonetheless, for some of us, we're doing everything we can and we're not seeing the growth. And if that's the case, then this one thing, this one word that I think is going to encapsulate everything that I'm talking about today, and that is the word intention. Intention. See, for many years, when I was growing my ministry, I was kind of all over the place. I was trying to just come up with ideas. Like, how many idea people are in the chat where you constantly have visions and things that just come to your mind? You're like, oh, I should do that. Oh, this would be great. Oh, wonderful idea. Wonderful idea. If that's you, go ahead. Put your name in the comments, because that was me. Ideas galore. I still struggle with that. And that's a beautiful thing. But it's a double-edged sword, because if you're constantly trying new things over and over again, and you're not being intentional about, okay, what is God leading me to do in this season for the assignment that He is giving me, then we can find ourselves all over the place. And so with intentionality comes results. But this is not just with you just having a bunch of ideas. It's also a matter in some cases where we are not intentional about being visible. For some of us, we're in the witness protection program. Like, people, if they were to Google us, they're not going to find us. They're going to look for us on YouTube or TikTok. They're not going to find you. No, your beautiful smile, your beautiful voice, the message that you have to share with the world. No, they don't know about it because you're hiding. Why are you hiding, sis? See, people need to know who you are. They need to be able to connect with you so that when you do have a program, you have an upcoming event, you're not just coming out of nowhere saying, hey, come to my event. They already feel like they know you because they've been watching you online. And sisters, we're in like a new era, if you will. And I don't say new, but like back in the day before social media, it's one of those things where we might be able to, get away with like, okay, let's just do some maybe ads in the newspaper or the church bulletin or just word of mouth phone calls. But nowadays, digital presence matters. So I'm going to ask for you to just Kind of be honest with me. If you can put this in the comments, no judgment. But on a scale of 1 to 10, one being, girl, you ain't posted nothing in your life, one, or 10 being like you are very visible and very active, where would you rate yourself? Go ahead and put it in the comments for me between 1 and 10. How would you rate yourself as it relates to visibility? Because if you're not visible, if you're not intentional about posting and putting out content for the person who's your assignment, then they're not going to know you exist. You will literally be the best kept secret. And when you're the best kept secret, it's not good for anybody. So, the number two, I guess, intentionality thing that I want you to consider is being visible. Okay. So, we talked about intention number one. We can't be all over the place with all these ideas. Intention number two is being visible so people know who we are. But intention number three, and this is coming from a conversation that I just had. I'm excited. I just recorded a podcast with a beautiful woman named Joanne Harad, and she is the co-founder of a business called The Glory Candle, and is a Christian company, and she is someone who started a organic candle business, and she started off very, very small. I mean, she was making the candles in her kitchen, and having like the warehouse eventually kind of go into her garage. And she started off, she was sharing how when she was making her candles, she didn't have fancy labels. She didn't have a fancy website. It was like that grunt period where you just putting things together. You ain't even got a whole lot of resources. You ain't got the money. She was in it, just like many of us. When we're starting off, we don't have a whole bunch of money to pour into things. And so she was talking about how she continued to do the work without the glitz and glamour. And I think that this is where we can find ourselves kind of getting lost, because we see certain people who are at a different stage in their business. I mean, they've been doing the work for years now. And so, yes, they might have a little glitz, a little glamour, and they have funds to do all these fancy ads and marketing and stuff. But they didn't start there. No, they did not. They started exactly where you probably are starting, and that is with a budget, and saying, okay, how can I put this stuff together on Canva and all the things. And so with that, the intention that I want you to understand when you're first starting off is focus on the things that really matter. Because sometimes we're like, oh my goodness, I gotta, before I do this event, before I do the thing that God has been telling me to do, I have to have this fancy smancy website. I have to have like all these ducks in a row. Things have to be perfect. My recovering perfectionist, I love you. I love you. I'm talking about myself here. But because you want things to be so perfect and have all the things glitz and glamour, you're focusing on the wrong things. No, like, get the product out there. Start making things. Actually start making phone calls when you are, particularly on the business side of things. If you are building a business, you don't have a business unless you have clients. And so if you are so focused on, for example, just trying to have all the marketing materials just right, and you have not picked up the phone, you have made no offers, you have no clients, then you don't have a business. So you can literally, I've talked to many individuals who are doing well in business, and they talk about how they went like a whole year or two without ever having a website. They just focused on making phone calls, doing the reach outs and things of that nature. And that's what really mattered, because that brought the funds in the door. And then they were able to reinvest back into marketing. But even if you're not building a business per se, but you're more so focusing on like the volunteer efforts, you have a program, a community-based initiative. Again, some of the things that we are focusing on, nobody cares about. Like, maybe you care about, but this person who is in need of your service, the person who right now, who is going through a life crisis, their marriage is in shambles, like the fact that like they are seeking healing. They don't care if your hair is just perfect on a YouTube live. They don't care if your hair is just right or you have the perfect words for what you're saying in a commercial. They don't care about that. All they care about is, can you help them. I think about how I was traveling 2 weeks ago, and I had been at a place, and this is like actually my continuous story. I tend to sit at my desk way too long. This is why I have like a standing desk right now, because I'll be at my desk 4 hours sitting, 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 and my back will be hurting me. And then I also was, trying to get myself together in the gym, doing a little weightlifting and everything. And so my back was hurting me. And I got to the point where I was going out of town for a speaking engagement. And on the flight, I'm like, my back is hurting me. Oh my goodness, this back pain is starting to get worse. And I had ignored it for a couple weeks. And so when I got off the plane, I was like, first thing I'm doing, I'm like, let me look up massage places. Okay. All right. And I'm calling. I'm like, hey, you got an opening? No, ma'am, we don't have an opening. Okay. Let me call another place. Okay. Do you have an opening? No. Okay. Google, who can I get to give me a massage? Okay. Finally, the fourth place I called, I was like, okay, ma'am, do you have an opening? And she said, you know what? We actually have an opening in 20 minutes. Can you be here? Yes. Put like I'm available. And she was like, well, ma'am, like the person who's available to do your massage, his name is Antoine. Are you okay with that? I said, ma'am, I don't care if this man calls himself the moon. Okay. Can he help me? And she was like, she just started falling out laughing. But I was telling her the truth. I was like, woman, I don't care about these small little details. Like, seriously, can he help me? And the same thing is true when it comes to you and your situation. For the person who needs your help, they ain't caring about like the name and all the other stuff. They just want to know, can you help me in my situation? Because their pain is that bad. And so when we get to the point where we recognize there's some things that we tripping about that's stopping us from actually doing what we need to do, we need to just get over ourselves, because we're focusing on the wrong thing. We're focusing so much on ourselves, and we see our insecurities and imperfections versus focusing on the thing that matters, which is the people who we're called to serve. And so we got to get our focus off of us, understand that we're not even operating in our own strength. We're operating, if God is operating through us, then in our weakness, God's strength is made perfect, and he can use us even as broken vessels to do some incredible things. But if we are so focused on things that don't matter, then we can just overthink the whole situation, which kind of brings me to the next thing that I see a lot of women struggle with is overthinking. Sister, you can overthink. At least that's how I can see myself. Like, oh, got to do this. Oh, what about this? What are this? And sometimes we are, individuals who we think, okay, what can possibly go wrong in this scenario? Because we want to avoid, a catastrophe or things taking place. And so our mind kind of comes up with like creative, just wild stuff. Like, say, for instance, you envision yourself speaking on stage and you like are just overthinking to the point where you see yourself like, man, what if I get on that stage and all of a sudden I fall off the stage? Huh? How did you end up falling off the stage? Why are you thinking about worst case scenario? Girl, no. Like, so instead of overthinking that things are going to go wrong, like think about, okay, even if it's just not 100% perfect, like I still trust God. I still trust God that God's going to order my steps, and this whole situation is going to work out for my good. And God's going to lead me down the path to be able to do what he's calling me to do in this season. And so I think for some of us, including myself, recovering control freaks, we have a real difficult time with that, because when it comes to your business, your ministry, it is one of the biggest faith walks you'll ever find yourself on. It is literally going to grow your faith. It's going to stretch you in ways you can't even imagine. And when you get that through your head that you are going to be stretched. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, there's going to be times in which it's sleepless, nights, and you're just going to be like, Lord Jesus, but it is also worth it. It's so worth it. And when you get to be across the table or across the computer, if you're meeting with someone digitally or virtually, and you hear the testimonies about how lives were transformed, how because of your faithful yes, like generations have been changed. You have been able to leave a legacy. How powerful is that, right? And so we have to release control. And when we are intentional about what we're working on, another main point I want to make here is that we want to build with the end in mind. Sometimes when it comes to what we're doing, we're just doing a lot of activity. That's equivalent to you just running on the treadmill. You're just running. You're just running. I'm having a good time, just running on the treadmill. For me, that is extremely boring. I am running in place. I'm perspiring and I'm going nowhere. I'm just running in place. For me, that makes no sense. But I get that from a working out at the gym standpoint. But in life, running on a treadmill, no. I don't want to keep just running and not going anywhere. That's activity without productivity. And activity without productivity is one in which you will find yourself burning out. Instead, when you're intentional, when you are building with the end in mind, when you are at a place where you're like, okay, I see that I am going in this direction. I want to be able, by this time at the end of the year, to be able to create a coaching program or a healing community that reaches domestic violence survivors, that helps women who are transitioning from divorce. You know who you want to support. You know how you want to support them. And you have some intention on how this particular activity in whatever field you're in, if you do this activity, is going to lead the person to this next step in the client journey. And then from there, it's going to lead them to this next step. You thought out their process and you've designed certain programs and resources that speaks to the person who's your assignment. It is not advantageous to be extremely busy and just doing a whole bunch of activity without intention. You will burn yourself out. So before you do your next move, ask yourself, okay, is what I'm doing right now effective? Effective. Okay. And there's a big difference between being effective and efficient. You can be efficient at moving this rock from here to there. Like you can be efficient in sending out emails and filing certain things. You could be the best person in the world for doing certain things that leads to no results. You're efficient. And I think some of us, we confuse being efficient at things that don't really matter with being effective and things that honestly, it might not be as glamorous or as fun, but it really moves the dial. In business and in life is 20% of the things that you do in your workday or in life that oftentimes yields 80% of the results when you focus on the right things. You want to be intentional on finding the things that really move the dial forward when it comes to your business, your ministry, your book, your outreach efforts, your nonprofits, whatever you're doing. What are the things that's going to really move the dial forward? And when you discover those things, when you really kind of have a clarity on what really matters, you'll be able to more quickly identify the things that are actually distractions, because there's a lot of distractions out there that can pull you in and really get you off course. But here's the thing: if you understand the power of your no, when you say, okay, I can't be attaching myself to everything and be everywhere, because if you're everywhere, you can't be exactly where God wants you to be in this season. And so, with intentionality, one of the things that I've had to learn to work on is writing the vision, right? Writing the vision and making it plain. One of the things that I struggled with back in school was creating outlines. When I was writing like an essay, the professor would be like, okay, we need to do an outline. I'm like, why we got to do an outline? I just want to just be free and just like freestyle and all the things. This thought process has bit me in the butt, because when you're freestyling and you're not really saying, okay, what is the goal here? God, what are you showing me in this season? What am I trying to accomplish? What does impact really look like? What does success really look like? When we don't have clarity about those things, then we can find ourselves again all over the place and doing a whole lot of activity. Like I talked to one of the women who I coach. We talk about how sometimes we just throw spaghetti at the wall and see, will it stick? Oh, it didn't stick. Okay, let me throw some more spaghetti. No, no, instead of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, how about you be intentional? Be intentional and really look at what are the things that you do that's going to make the biggest difference. And when you're able to have clarity, when you're able to know, okay, these are the things that not only make a difference, but what I enjoy doing, where you look at what you're really anointed at and what season you're in, that's when you're able to really see results and you're able to really make impact. All right. And so, ladies, that is it for our time together today. I hope that you were encouraged by this episode. And if you were, I want you to do me a favor and make a comment. What is your biggest takeaway from our time together today? Also, I am going to give you an extra bonus gift. I recently did an amazing webinar on how to build your ministry driven business. And if you weren't a part of that live webinar, you have a chance to watch the replay. Now, I'm breaking things down in this. Like, I'm talking about some of the biggest mistakes that Christian women make in business and in ministry and how to avoid those mistakes. I'm also giving you some great tools as well that you can apply right away in your kingdom business. So if you're in a season where you're trying to grow some things, I encourage you to watch this replay. All you have to do is go to the show notes to see the link, and it's right there for you. All right, sisters. So I'm so excited to have had this time with you today. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Also, I invite you to like this episode because when you like it, it tells YouTube, hey, people are having fun with this. And go ahead and share this with a friend. All right, sisters. So again, thank you for hanging out with me today. I will see you next week, same time, same channel. And until next time, you be blessed, sister. I'll see you soon.